Everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com back again to talk about last night's edition of Dynamite. Lots of stuff to talk about, so let's waste no further time. How good was Dynamite? As you know, there's only one way to find out, and that is by assigning each individual segment a lovely individual grade. That's right, it's time for AEW Dynamite Graded. If you know, you know. We start things off with a tag team match, Hangman Page and Matt Hardy taking on Jack Evans and Angelico, aka TH2. And commentary, while the babyfaces start off strong, are just talking about how great Hangman Page is, and I just totally agree. The heels start beating down Matt, but he eventually gets the hot tag to Hangman. He starts running absolutely wild. He gets on the apron, setting up for the buckshot, but Matt Hardy tags himself in. And then he gets in the ring and gets shoved into Hangman, who's still on the apron, and he gets knocked to the outside. Matt, you're messing everything up. Matt is then isolated. TH2 hit him with all kinds of double team offense. Jack Evans goes up for a Phoenix splash, but he kind of comes up a bit short. Matt might be slightly too far away, and Evans kind of falls into it. It still gets two, but yeah, it is sadly probably one of the most memorable things about the match, and it wasn't a good thing. Evans then goes for a standing 450, the one where he puts his leg in Angelico's hands and he helps him flip over, but Matt rolls out the way, and then out of nowhere from off camera, Hangman slingshots himself into the ring, double buckshot to both opponents. Matt hits the twist of fate, and that's all she wrote. Matt then gets on the mic and says, "Oh, Hangman, I'm so excited. Me and you are going to make a lot of money together because, of course, I'm getting 30% because of the contract I got you to sign when you were hammered last week." And Hangman says, whoa, just 1 second there, Matt, because I switched out the contracts. Hangman brings out the Jacksonville Jaguars mascot, which has the new existing contract, which Matt has already signed. Matt reads it angrily, and it's revealed that the contract isn't for talent representation, it's for a match at Revolution between Matt Hardy and Hangman Page. And if Hangman wins, he gets 100% of Matt's Q1 earnings for 2021. It's all about the money. Matt is livid, of course. He was trying to get one over on Hangman, but instead Hangman's got one over on him. He calls him a carny. He says, "Oh, you tried to swindle me, but if you're an honourable man, you'll put all of your Q1 earnings on the line as well." And Hangman says, "Well, looks like we've got ourselves a money match." And then he's jumped from behind by the Jacksonville Jaguars mascot. I should point out at this stage that we Brits say that animal's name differently to how I've heard Americans say it. If you're American watching this, you probably say Jaguars. We say Jaguars, which I think is more guttural and impactful and befitting of such a dangerous creature. The mascot removes its head to reveal that it's been Isaiah Cassidy all along. Did Matt know about the contract situation all along then? Is that why he placed Cassidy in the mascot suit ready for this? I'm quite confused. I don't really understand what this means. However, Matt decides to really pile on the numbers advantage on Hangman, who's getting beaten down, because he offers TH2 $3,700 to a bizarrely specific amount to join in beating down Hangman Page. Am I missing some sort of in-joke there with the $3,700? Please let me know if there is something in the comments down below. But then suddenly, -1, Brody Lee Jr. runs out on stage and beckons the rest of the Dark Order down to help Hangman. They all run the heels away. Matt Hardy nearly gets his head taken off by a buckshot lariat from Hangman, but he ducks it and heads for the hills. And Hangman is left alone in the ring with the Dark Order, and he looks at them, and it's like he's remembered who his real friends are. This opening segment and match gets a B- grade. It wasn't bad, but unfortunately, as I mentioned, one of the most memorable things about the match was that Phoenix splash attempt from Jack Evans. He's normally better than that, obviously, but it went wrong on this occasion. I like the developments, though. I like the build to a match between Matt and Hangman. It's probably the least important storyline that Hangman's been a part of since maybe even the start of AEW, but I think that's fine. I think he can work away lower down the card, rebuild his momentum, and then eventually grow in stature once again and take the belt from that son of a bitch, Kenny Omega. So yes, B- is the grade. A perfectly fine opening match, and I think that Hangman's probably going to win, although you never know. They could do something tricky at Revolution. Next up, my boy Alex Marvez is backstage with the Inner Circle. He's talking to Santana and Ortiz about their upcoming tag title match tonight. Apparently the tag title match is their first in AEW history, and I think, wow, is that really true? Santana and Ortiz put that down to fear from other members of the tag team division, and then MJF cuts in to start basically slagging off Sammy Guevara for leaving the Inner Circle last week. But surprisingly, Jericho jumps in and tells MJF to shut up. He says, "Look, I've seen the past few weeks, I've seen what you've been doing. You've been goading Sammy Guevara all along, and well done. You got what you wanted. Sammy Guevara has quit the Inner Circle. Well done, MJF. But then Jericho does say, as much as I'm putting a bit of the blame on you, most of the blame lies at the feet of Sammy Guevara. When you walk away from the Inner Circle, you walk away from me. And Jericho says, now Sammy Guevara is dead to me. Next up, we get a little recap of the Japanese side of the bracket in the Women's Eliminator Tournament. Advancing to the next round are Yuka Sakazaki, Emi Sakura, Ryo Mizunami, and Aja Kong. And it's then revealed, unfortunately, that a lot of the matches on either side of the bracket aren't going to be on Dynamite, not even really on the US side. A lot of them are going to be instead at least aired on AEW's YouTube channel on Monday, I believe. But one match that we do get to see on Dynamite is the next match. It's Serena Deeb, the NWA Women's Champion, of course, taking on Riho. It's so glad to see her back. Why on earth did she push down Yuka Sakazaki at Fyter Fest 2019? I'm still never letting that go. Anyway, we start the match with like waist locks and counters and stuff. I'm still annoyed. But in all seriousness, it is good to see Riho again. It's good to see her doing her old moves that made us really fall in love with her when she originally had her AEW run, such as like the bridging escape from a pinfall, her incredible flexibility, her double stomps off the top rope, all the sort of Riho things, as well as her selling and her excellent underdog potential because she's so small. Midway through the match, Serena Deeb takes a blow to her previously injured knee, and Doc Samson comes down to ringside to check on her and to make sure that she's okay to continue. He doesn't seem convinced, but she pushes him away. She's like, no, I'm continuing, and she limps all the way around the ring and continues the assault. But the knee starts to give Serena trouble, like she can't complete a suplex at one point, she's generally a bit slower moving around the ring. It's really interesting psychological stuff. So then Serena starts to work Riho's leg to kind of even the odds, which I think is really good. There's a lot of dragon screws and stuff. At one point she goes for a stretch muffler on Riho, but Riho reverses it into a very near fall from an inside cradle. This match was really heating up nicely at this point. Riho hits the double stomp from the top, but it only gets two. Serena Deeb a little bit later on goes for the detox, but Riho slips out, and they begin a very nice exchange of pinning combinations, which Riho wins, getting the 3 count and pinning the NWA Women's Champion, and knocking her out of the tournament as well. This gets an A grade from me easily. It was an excellent match, probably the best match of the night. Riho looked really good. It was great to see her back, but honestly, Serena Deeb was amazing in this match. I enjoyed her tactical thinking, trying to go for Riho's leg because her own leg was weakened. Just generally, every little thing she does is so sharp and so polished and makes it feel really real in the ring. So yeah, I'm still really impressed by Serena Deeb on a weekly basis, and it's awesome to see Riho back too. Next up, we get a little training montage with Shaquille O'Neal and Jade Cargill preparing for their match against Cody and Red Velvet. They play a lot of basketball in this montage, which isn't wrestling, interestingly, but it looks like they're having fun. So swings and roundabouts, really. Next up, a bit of a dream match of mine, and I'm sure it's a dream match of many of you as well. It's Orange Cassidy, accompanied by Chuck Taylor, against Luther, accompanied by Serpentico. Yes! Give whoever booked this a raise. Immediately, we get a bit of extracurricular activity from the men not involved in the match. So Luther starts things off by shoving Chuck Taylor off the apron, and then Serpentico flies into the ring and out the other side with a big dive to try and take Chuck Taylor out of the equation early on. While this is all going on, obviously Orange Cassidy's quite distracted, so Luther hits him with a pump kick and a huge power bomb, but it only gets 2. So close, Luther, so close. Cassidy gets revenge a little while later. He's stood on the floor, Luther's on the apron above him, and he powerbombs him off the apron to the floor. It's a heavy landing. The referee goes out to check on Luther. Orange Cassidy is about to get jumped from behind by Serpentico while the ref's distracted, but Chuck Taylor gets in the ring and just nails Serpentico with his finisher, the Awful Waffle. Back in the ring, the actual competitors of the match go, and it's not long before Orange Cassidy hits the orange punch, 1, 2, 3, and he beats Luther in pretty short order. Now, normally I give very short matches like this one just a flat C grade as just a default, but I'm going to give this one a C+ because I'm still really a child, essentially, and there were enough shiny, bright things going on to entertain me and keep me distracted. So C+ is the grade. Nothing offensive. Next up, Team Taz's music hits, and here they come. Taz, Hook, and Brian Cage. They get in the ring, and Taz gets on the mic and says that he's been hearing that Sting is going to call out Team Taz. Right, Taz, have you been paying attention? Because Sting's been calling you out for the past, it feels like about 3 months or so. Anyway, he says if Sting wants to call us out, then bring it on. And sure enough, here comes Sting! Except Tony doesn't shout that this time. Tony's still on commentary. This might be the first Sting segment without Tony Schiavone anywhere near it. Sting gets in the ring, he's got the bat, and Taz says, yeah, of course you brought the bat. You need that. You're nothing without it. So Sting throws the bat down and attacks Brian Cage. But Hook's clever, he's switched on, he gets the bat and chokes Sting with it from behind. Sting kind of throws him off, but it leaves him wide open to an attack from Brian Cage, who hooks him up and drops him with a hard powerbomb in the middle of the ring. And for someone, you know, as old as Sting, for a wrestler, and with, you know, a history of injuries, oh, this was a bit shocking. I mean, I'm giving it a B+. It was certainly effective. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. But man, I don't know if Sting should be taking too many of those. But it was an effective segment. Sting finally did something. We've been asking him to do something else apart from just cut the same promo for the past few weeks. And he did. It was hard to watch, but I guess that was the point. Next up, we go backstage for an Eddie Kingston promo. He's flanked by the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny, and he explains that he requested the 6-man tag team main event later on. It's himself, the Butcher and the Blade, against Moxley, Fenix, and Lance Archer. And Kingston explains that his 3 opponents are 3 demons he needs to get off his back. Archer, because they've been going at it since the Casino Battle Royal, like for months and months now. Phoenix, because he ruined Eddie's stable. Eddie just wanted Penta to be in the stable. Phoenix had to ruin everything. And Moxley, because obviously he beat him in that title match and he's never got over that. And he needs to beat Moxley to kind of finally get that demon, as he said, off his back. Next up, JR throws us to a video from earlier today featuring, in his words, the WWE champion Kenny Omega. Oh, Jim, I know he didn't mean it, and I know that, you know, if you work for the same company for so long, you will basically accidentally say the wrong thing sometimes if you suddenly switch brands. I mean, from personal experience, for the first few months of Cultaholic, I was still introducing myself in videos as Jack from What Culture, and the editors hated my guts because of it. But this wasn't a recorded video, was it? It was live, and it was jarring, and as much as Jim Ross is an icon, this was a big mistake. Anyway, we go to the video in question from earlier today. Kenny Omega is in a local elementary school. He's about to read to a class full of children, but Alex Marvez is there in the classroom as well. He steps in, he's like, Kenny, can I just get a few words? And like, Kenny's like, Alex, really? At this moment in time, have you got no decency? Now, let me just be the first to say that my boy Alex Marvez never gives up on a story. He is the Batman of journalism. He is a true vigilante. And he's just in search of the truth and justice, and I don't think we should judge him for that, Kenny. Anyway, Kenny settles down and reads a passage from the Young Bucks autobiography to the classroom full of kids, specifically the part where he had a match with Chris Jericho in Tokyo, of course, and then interest in New Japan boomed because of it, which is true, but the kids don't care. Kenny's like, do you guys know what that means? You know, business was booming and stuff? It means that everybody was watching because of me. Callis steps in and says, okay, Kenny, look, we've got to go. We're running late. Kenny's like, okay, well, bye, kids. And the kids are all like, oh, no, well, come and play with us. And then Callis and Kenny are like, we've really got to go. Why don't you play with Nakazawa instead? And then professional wrestler Michael Nakazawa goes over. One of the kids hits him in the balls. He falls over, and all the kids beat him up. All the kids beat up Michael Nakazawa. Oh. Okay, so I get what this segment was trying to do, trying to portray Kenny as like this self-absorbed figure, trying to even force a new generation of children to be big fans of his. I get it, I get what it's doing, but lads, this wasn't a good segment, man. It was good on paper, but the execution was awful. From JR introducing him as the WWE champion, that was really bad, to effectively the joke with Nakazawa at the end, getting beaten up by children. None of it really worked for me. I'm gonna have to give it a D grade, unfortunately. I get what they were trying to do. It just didn't work. Next up, we get tag team title action, a match that many people actually wanted to see as the main event of the show, and I possibly agree. The Young Bucks defending their tag titles against the Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz. Santana and Ortiz are accompanied by various other members of the Inner Circle. The Young Bucks' parents are in attendance in the front row to watch the match, which means heel shenanigans are inbound. A few moments into the match, we cut backstage where, at a ludicrous diagonal angle from the TV screen, the match is being watched by Omega, the Good Brothers, and Don Callis. And Excalibur makes some kind of remark like, what a weird angle they're watching television at, because WWE has their wrestlers look at the TV from that angle. But that would be funny if JR hadn't made like the mother of all mistakes earlier on, so it didn't quite work. A couple of minutes into the match, MJF gets on the apron trying to tip the balance in Santana and Ortiz's favour. The referee catches him and ejects not just MJF, but the other members of the Inner Circle too, like Jericho and Hager, around the ring. They're livid, they stomp off, and Santana and Ortiz, they're on their own. Matt gets the hot tag at one point, he runs wild, Santana and Ortiz get back into it, the Bucks get back into it, there's lots of moves being hit as you can imagine. The Bucks go for more bang for your buck, but Santana interrupts it, springing up to the top rope and nailing a ludicrous like avalanche Falcon Arrow. It's awesome, but it only gets 2. Ortiz at one point gets kind of a, I don't know what the actual name of the submission is. It's kind of like a reverse, or like a rear applied go-go platter almost, driving Nick's neck into his own leg. It looks really cool, but Nick hangs on long enough without tapping for Matt Jackson to head up top and nail a Macho Man elbow drop to break it up. And then the Bucks just start destroying Santana. They hit him with a massive doomsday device from the corner. They hit him with a double super kick. Ortiz breaks up the pinfall attempt. Then they go for the BTE trigger on Santana, but he ducks out the way and their knees hit each other. This allows the heels to hit the street sweeper, their double team finisher on Nick. 1-2, and Matt dives over the referee just to break it up in time. Now, this may have been a little bit late on the breaking up of the pinfall attempt. I'd have to watch it back. My gut tells me he was a fraction late. Proud and Powerful take Matt Jackson outside and powerbomb him into the front row. They head back inside. They're sure they're going to win now because Nick's on his own. And Nick just cradles Ortiz. 1, 2, 3. And the Young Bucks retain. The rest of the Inner Circle run back out and they hit the ring and start beating down the Young Bucks. And a very nice detail that I enjoyed was that Santana and Ortiz didn't really join in with the beatdown. They just sit there in the middle of the ring, just devastated at having lost the match. Brandon Cutler, obviously a long-term friend of the Bucks, he runs out to try and save the day, but Jake Hager intercepts him on the ramp and hits a nasty suplex right on the ramp. And then MJF and Jericho put simultaneous submissions on both of the Young Bucks, and they tap out, building intrigue for their match at Revolution. Backstage, Kenny Omega really wants to run out and save his friends, but Don Callis is like, no, Kenny, no, you just stay here. He sends out the Good Brothers instead. They hit the ring, they chase the heels away, and as they go around the ring on the outside, Jericho gets into it with the Young Bucks' dad, who shoves him, and it's all raising tension again ahead of their match in a few weeks' time. This gets an A- grade, the second really good match of the night, not quite as good as Deeb versus Riho, but still in the same ballpark. The Matt Jackson breakup of the pinfall attempt was maybe a little bit of a negative point, as was for many people I saw on Twitter the fact that Santana and Ortiz didn't win the match. I know a lot of people would have wanted the challengers to win. I sort of did as well, setting up like an Inner Circle derby between them and Jericho and MJF at Revolution. But, you know, I'm okay with the Young Bucks keeping the titles at this point. That didn't ruin the match at all for me. I'm pretty pleased with how it went. Next up, we get the gender reveal of Brandy and Cody's baby. Brandy says she's the only person who knows this. Apparently Cody doesn't even know. They head out onto the stage with Cody's music playing, and on the Tron it says, "It's a girl." So congratulations to them. I don't know if they actually did know or not, but I mean, it's wrestling, so your guess is as good as mine. Cody then joins the commentary team for the next match, which is FTR taking on not just Matt Sydal, but he and his brother, Mike Sydal. The Sydal bros are in the house. Raise the roof. I'm not cool. Now on commentary, Cody reveals a very interesting match for Revolution. The face of the Revolution ladder match, a 6-way match, basically for the #1 contendership to Darby Allin's TNT title. 3 of the 6 men have already been confirmed. They are Cody, Penta, and Scorpio Sky. Now, I've never seen Matt and Mike Sydal wrestle as a team before, but it turns out they made quite an exciting, fast-paced babyface tag team, but FTR obviously take control by being really, really good. The faces, though, fight back into it. Mike hits a moonsault from the top rope to the outside, Matt hits a Meteora, and then Mike comes off the top onto Cash Wheeler with like a turning splash. I wonder if he was meant to throw like a corkscrew in there or something, but he doesn't. And he seems to land it a little bit wrong, does Mike. He seems to land maybe across the throat even of Cash Wheeler, but thankfully, Cash seems to be okay. FTR, of course, fight back. They hit the big rig on Mike and pin him for the win, and he's completely laid out. He is unconscious in the middle of the ring, so Doc Samson gets in to check on him, and FTR wave him away and steal his medical bag, and they get some scissors out. They're about to cut a bit of Mike's hair, but then the lights go down. On the Tron, we see a silhouette of Luchasaurus, but his mask is laid next to him, and I'm thinking, oh, are we going to get maskless Luchasaurus? And then the lights come back up, and he's there with Stunt and Jungle Boy behind FTR, ready to blindside them, but he does have a mask on. It's a slightly tweaked version, I think, of his mask. He still looks pretty much the same. They beat up FTR, everyone's happy, Marco Stunt's doing the Baltimore, oh, everyone's loving it. Gets a B grade this whole segment. I thought it was fine. Not like a big highlight of the show, but perfectly serviceable action. And then we get the standard Jon Moxley somewhere in an urban location promo where he mentions 3 different things in this one. He talks about the main event tonight and how he's going to win. He talks about how he's going to beat Kenta and break his neck. And he talks also about how he's still gunning for Kenny Omega and his boys. And finally, the main event, the previously mentioned 6-man tag team match, Moxley, Fenix and Archer against Kingston, Butcher and The Blade, with a very vocal Bunny at ringside for this one. Did anyone else notice she was like whooping and hollering a lot during this match? She's a heel, so it's fine if it was annoying, but I just was a bit surprised because It's the first time I've noticed it, I think. The faces all enter from that like side road and they head in the ring and there's a big brawl to start things off. Lance Archer starts running wild. He goes up top for his rope walk, but then the Butcher stops him from the outside and grabs his leg. So Fenix rope walks behind Archer on the same rope and kicks Butcher and kind of disrupts what the heels are doing. Fenix continuing to be awesome in multi-man tag matches. Who would have thought? In fact, now I think about it, Fenix really should be in that Face of the Revolution ladder match, and he really should win, shouldn't he? And he really should beat Darby Allin and just be the champion forever, just forever and ever. Now at this point, something weird happens off camera where basically Eddie Kingston heads off somewhere, and I think he tries to drag the timekeeper's table closer to the ring, but it collapses or something, because when the camera pans back to him, there's something in the background. It looks like the timekeeper's table, but just on a diagonal like that. It's weird, it's never referred to. I assume they were setting up for some kind of big table spot, which they just had to not have happen, which is a shame, but they move on anyway. Anyway, Fenix gets the hot tag and craziness ensues. He does a big no-hands dive over the top rope. He does a huge frog splash on the Butcher. It only gets 2, but it's Fenix, so I really wish it was 3. Fenix, man. Just... What more can I say about him? The faces then all gang up on Eddie Kingston, super kick from Fenix, pounced by Lance Archer, bulldog choke from Jon Moxley, which he's beaten Kingston with before, but the Butcher and the Blade are in to break it up. Archer and Fenix then head to the apron, they throw Butcher and Blade to the outside, and they get on the apron and Archer says, "Fenix, come here, come here, come here," and then just choke slams him onto the heels below. And then Archer backs up a little bit, still on the apron, runs, terrifying senton off the apron from such a big man, but it's really cool. Back in the ring, Kingston clocks Moxley with the back fist, but Moxley shakes it off. Paradigm shift, 1, 2, 3, and the babyfaces win. Moxley is alone in the ring for his celebration. He gets on the top rope with his music playing. Then his music stops, and he continues to celebrate, which is an error, John, isn't it? Because when your music stops, that means there might be a run-in. Gallows and Anderson run out and attack Jon Moxley and restrain him. Kenny Omega comes out with a contract, and he says, "Look, I've got a contract for a rematch with you for my title at Revolution. But, John, I get to pick the stipulation." And I'm thinking, oh, what's he going to do? Like a ladder match or Iron Man or something? No, not quite. Kenny says, how about we have an exploding barbed wire death match? How are they going to... I don't know how they're going to pull this off. Wow, is it maybe one of the first of its kind in the Western wrestling world? I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see what happens here. But as he's talking, Kenny gets too close to Moxley, who is still being restrained, but Kenny comes within range and Moxley just headbutts him. Kenny staggers back. He's actually bleeding from the head as well, but he nails Moxley with a couple of vengeful V-triggers. And that pretty much ends the show. This gets an A grade, a great, fun, chaotic, wild main event. And what on earth is that stipulation gonna bring us at Revolution? I don't know. But how good was the show overall? I'm gonna give it an A- grade. Generally, the action on this show was very strong. Better on average than the standard Dynamite, I think, as well. 3 really good matches. The main event, the Young Bucks Santana and Ortiz match, and the best one, I think, in my opinion, Riho versus Serena Deeb. But things that prevent the show from being like a top tier episode of Dynamite are things like JR's big mistake, the mysterious table thing in the main event, unless I've just totally missed something and I'm being an idiot. But generally, the bits in between the big matches on this show were a little bit lacking, whereas the action on this show was better than Dynamite usually puts on. So it gets an A- grade, nice show, and I continue to be more and more hyped for Revolution. Thank you very much for watching this video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic. Let me know what you thought of this week's Dynamite in that comment section down below. And yeah, thanks once again for watching. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.